While that's coming up, today we're talking about building a personal brand that stands. And sometimes people will say, well, I don't, really care. I am who I am, and that's fine. But whether you participate in your personal brand or not, you still have one. And it enters the room before you do, and it stays when you leave. Yes. So then, why not be intentional about it? And the point, though, is to be authentic with it, right? There was a time when I first started doing this work that I used to help people build what I call market-led brands. And those were brands where, there was a time where if you wanted a job at a particular company, you would call the company, and if you knew somebody there, you might say, hey girl, what buzzwords are they looking for? And then you massage your resume. You don't lie, but you make your qualities and skills fit the job that you're going to. Well, I used to do something very similar with people's brands. Malin, I'm gonna ask if you could come and just see if you can find the mirror or extend display. I don't know, it's somewhere in here, but okay. So then I was helping people build what I call market-led brands, which is you see what the market wants and then you become that so that you can get the job or be in the thing. But what I found out was that those quickly fall apart because anything that is disingenuous does not remain over time. It's kind of like oil and water. The real you will start to separate. So when we talk about what is a brand, oh, it's up. Yay, you're awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fabulous. Thank you so much. All right. So I'm going to talk for about 15 minutes and then it'll get more interactive, but I want to set up what a personal brand is. I'll talk a little bit more about my background if we have time at the end or if you have questions, but I want to get to the content and what you came here for. So what is a personal brand? Your personal brand is the promise that you make to the world about who you are, how you show up, and then how you deliver that to the world. And it's comprised of a few different things. Now, while everybody's brand is unique, there are three things that people expect from a personal brand, and that is authenticity. That means that it's real, it's genuine. Where it comes from is your core. That it is congruent, that you are not trying to be all things to all people, so that the way you behave is in line with the things that you say. You walk the talk. And then lastly, the consistency. Now, you know how irritating it is to be around someone and you're not sure who you're going to get today, so you're creeping in, and I don't know who's here, right? Which personality is up today? When you're authentic, you don't have to worry about massaging yourself for different things. Now, while my presentation may be different, I might not talk in front of the pastor the way I would talk in front of my girlfriends, but the content of what I'm saying would be the same. The language is what would be different, but the root of it should be exactly the same. So those are the three things that they expect. Now, this is one of those things that people don't necessarily, I think we're going to talk about personal brand differently maybe than you've heard it before. And one of the things that I want to talk about is mental chatter. And so I have a question for you, and that is, how many of you know what's going to happen in the next 20 seconds? In the next 10 seconds? Or even in the next 5 seconds? You don't, right? So we all just admitted by not raising our hands that everything from this moment forward is a figment of our imagination, yes? We made it up. So then the question becomes, why then do we tell ourselves the negative story if we can make up any story that we want to? Studies continue to show that 85% of our mental chatter is negative. That's a lot of fighting for our lives. Right? To get back to the outcomes. Why does mental chatter matter when it comes to your personal brand? Because our thoughts, feelings, and actions drive each other, right? It's a big loop. What we're thinking, we have emotions about it, we think about that, and then we do something. We act on what it is that we're thinking. So if we're not balancing out our thinking, if we're only thinking on the negative, you know how it feels. Let's say if you were going to the airport, you were so excited for your flight. And you were so excited for your vacation. It's been a long time coming. You have been on vacation in 5 years and you missed the flight. Or there's a technical or mechanical problem and you're going to not be able to go until the next day. So now you're going to miss a full day in the sun, right? So now you might say, oh, I knew I should have left earlier. I knew this was happening. This is so awful. This airline is never on time. And you go through this, you're telling yourself this story about how amazing day one was going to be. You could have broken your foot on something the day you arrived. Had you caught this particular plane, you could have had a completely different experience. But because you've labeled this missing of the flight as awful, you are now in awful mode, yes? So even the way you're interacting with people, when you go sit down, maybe you go to the bar to have a drink, and doesn't have to be alcoholic, and you're talking to the person, they say, oh, well, how are you? Oh, I was fine, but I missed my flight, and I was so looking forward to things like this always happen. It's always something, and off we go, creating a blueprint, right? We're telling our spirit how we want to behave and how we want to exist. And does the person next to us really want to hear it? No. Now, let's say if you were a consultant and you had a business and this person next to you is the type of client you would normally have, right? Had you not gone down the single road of awful, you might have been able to engage differently, and now you have a gig. Now you're $20,000 more well off than you were, and now you missing that flight somehow becomes worth it because you didn't go down the rabbit hole with your mental chatter. And now think about how that person knows your brand. First introduction. Their first introduction to you was of someone complaining. And I know we want to say, well, everybody has a bad day. And we say that. But we don't use that then to validate or excuse the interactions that we've had with people. We say, she was just a complaining, or he was just a complaining, and going on, right? So our mental chatter matters. And what I offer is that instead of landing on a conclusion or a label about people or about circumstances, that you offer yourself the other side of the story. So it's natural to have an emotional reaction. Don't suppress that. Wow, I feel really sad. And the reason why you feel sad is because there was an expectation that was unmet, right? Is that you set the expectation and you held so closely to it that determines our level of emotion around it, right? If you planned on eating outside for lunch, but it starts raining, but you still get your favorite meal, you're not as disappointed. You go, oh, I wanted to eat outside today, but you're still smiling. But if you thought you were going to get a job on Monday and they told you were a shoo-in and you're calculating all the things you're going to buy and the way you're going to pay down your debt, but now they tell you, ooh, so sorry we cut that roll. Now that level of emotion gets big. And so those are the moments we have to manage our expectations and try to stay in the middle, knowing that really we say anything could happen, but really anything can happen. And so offering our spirits, our souls, our minds, both sides of the story will help us tame our mental chatter. Okay. On the sheet of paper, you can write it down or not write it down. We're going to roll through this part quickly, but this is the crux of everything that I teach. I would like you to think of a pet peeve. Not something that is a minor irritation, but something that sends you over the top. A behavior in someone else that sends you over the top. Just think about that for a moment. I want to hear about 5 of them. Okay, anybody have them? Yes, sir.
Dragging your feet.
Literally dragging your feet.
When you walk.
Okay. Is it the sound or the look?
The look.
The look. Thank you. Another one. Pet peeve, yes.
Being cut off, whether it's in line breakers, whether you cut me off in traffic or you get in front of me in McDonald's.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. I'm coming back.
To relate to that, like somebody cutting you off while you're talking.
Interrupting you while you're talking. Thank you. Yes.
Talking with food in your mouth.
Talking with, is it the look or the sound? Okay. The reason why I ask is because this always comes up where people don't like the sound of look. That's actually a condition called mesophenia, and you can't help it.
Right, but if you're chewing food and you're putting food in your mouth and you start a conversation,
Yes.
that's intention.
See,
That's my pet.
exactly. Yes. And I receive that. I just want to separate behaviors from we'll talk about that, from this sensory. For some people, it's sensory and they can't help it. 2 more pet peeves. Yes. Mean-spirited. Yes. People don't speak when you say hello. All right. Now, let's run with this. Thinking about your pet peeves, not just the people who spoke about it. What is your reaction to the pet peeve? And I'll take some people who didn't say their pet peeves. What are your reactions to your pet peeves? Yes.
You want me to tell you what the pet peeve is too?
Absolutely.
Okay. I don't like people telling me what I should be doing.
Okay.
And my reaction is to look at them like, why don't you do it? You know,
Okay.
something
Yes.
that made me
Yes.
upset telling me what to do with my time.
That's right.
And so now I'm reacting to you in a negative manner too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I saw a hand. Yes.
If other people don't speak, I go ahead and speak for them. I say hello. Oh, hello. How are you? I'm good. Thank you.
They have a whole conversation. Absolutely. I appreciate that. A couple more. Reactions to your pet peeves. Yes.
When people talk over me, I feel silence, and I feel like I'm kind of like I'm being put in a corner.
Thank you. One more. Yes.
When people don't say thank you, you always have it go open and they walk right in and say nothing. And
Okay.
I say, "You're quite wrong."
That's right. Okay. I have one more question for now. What could be potential consequences to your reactions to the pet peeve? It can cause an argument. Yes. Thank you. Yes. It can impact your relationships. Yes. What else? Yes.
It might teach them not to talk with food in their mouth.
It could potentially be a teaching moment, depending on your presentation, right? Yes.
If you're getting cut off on the road, you're getting yourself all riled up for something that you don't have control over.
That's exactly right. You could get into a physical altercation and be hurt, right? Yes.
You can miss granting a blessing and or receiving a blessing.
Absolutely. How many people like being in the space of reacting to their pet peeves? Okay. All right. No one, right? Why don't we all have the same ones? Okay. Different perspectives. What else? In what way? Okay. Right brain, left brain. Yes, all valid. I maintain that when it comes to these emotional reactions, I call pet peeves value confrontations. And on the other side of every pet peeve is a value, right? So before I started doing this work, I was the one who might hold the door. You know how sometimes they have 2 doors in the department store? So I might hold the first door and the person doesn't acknowledge it, and I would turn around and say, "Oh, you're welcome." Because in my mind, I'm thinking, you meant to say thank you, but you didn't. But let's say the person still didn't acknowledge me. Maybe I don't hold the second door, right? I scoot through it, I let it drop on them. Okay? Now, here I am in this workshop talking to you about personal brand. And I will tell you that one of my core values is consideration. What is your name? Chastity. Let's say the person I dropped the door on yesterday was Chastity. So now, right, here we are in this workshop. She says, well. Look who's here, Miss Consideration. Is that how Chastity knows me? She knows me to be considerate? No. How does she know me? Inconsiderate, right? Not courteous, rude, all the things. When we experience value confrontations without an understanding, we have emotional reactions. It's normal because we don't know what we're reacting to something important to us, right? And the thing about our core values is they make so much sense to us that we think everybody should have them. Now here's my question. Why did I hold the door in the first place? Because I'm considerate. What did you say behind my mom? That's what I was taught? Okay. Yes. Okay. I hold the door because I value consideration. Did that person ask me to hold the door? Do they owe me a thank you? No. No. It's a hard pill to swallow. But you cannot adjust your values to fit the circumstances. Dropping the door does not align with my values, correct? Because in my valuing of consideration, I hold the door. In my valuing of consideration, I wipe off the sink basin in the airport because I don't want you. I'm considering you. I don't want you to wet your pants when you come up. But do you have to have my values? No. So what we have to decide is if our core values are our core values, then we have to live from that space every day. No matter how others are operating. That's the brand. That's the foundation of the brand, right? When I was in corporate America in commercial real estate, one of the lead brokers one time told me that I was being too passive in these presentations. I needed to be more aggressive, In my valuing of consideration, I'm always going to talk. I have something, I'm going to consider what you're saying, and I will have something to offer. But there were people in the room who wouldn't. So I would always make sure that they got to speak. And he saw that as passive, right? So in my living out my label, in me living out my core values, people can label me, right? Do I have control over the labels? After this workshop, in one of your sessions, somebody could say, how'd you enjoy the personal brand session this morning? And half of you could say, I found her off-putting and a little arrogant. The other half of the room could say, she was informative and I really got a lot out of it. Can I control that? What I can do is operate from a place that I am sure of and let the labels land where they may. So remembering that in our personal brand, not to try to become all things to all people. How I even started doing this work was I was exhausted from trying to be what people wanted me to be in every arena. And then you can't even keep it up because it's not real. It's exhausting. When you understand that and you're living by your core values and you get labeled, you are now no longer offended. Look at that. Right now we're having different interactions. Now what I'm understanding is that we may not share the same values, and that is okay. I don't need to dislike you. I don't need to talk badly about your name. I could say, I understand, like, you ever have a friend and they come and tell you something, they are livid. And they get to the end of the story and you're like, I don't get it. Right? And what's the first thing we want to tell them? It's not that big a deal. Calm down. You're being too emotional. They've just experienced a value confrontation that they can't name. And when we don't have understanding, we get frustrated. Yes? You ever try to figure out a math problem? You feel better about it when you can solve it. But when it's just all these numbers and formulas, that is frustrating. So when we can name the value that's been confronted, then we can have a strategic response and not an emotional reaction. So do I love it when people don't say thank you? Of course I don't, because I value consideration. I like it when people share my values. That feels good. Why? Because it's when I'm my most authentic self. We feel best around the people where we don't have to put on any airs. We don't have to censor who it is that we are. That feels good. But what I understand is that minor little irritation of not saying thank you is I come back to me, and that's my value. And I'm never going to regret holding the door. I used to, because I thought I was teaching them a lesson, when I was really just showing them who I am, or giving them reason to think that I was someone that I wasn't. Makes sense? Okay. So what I would offer, we don't have time to do it today, is identify your top 5 pet peeves. Like, go home and really think about that. Your top 5 pet peeves, and then think about what the value might be on the other side of it. So if you don't like it when people lie, is it honesty? Is it integrity? What's the word? Because they're not all the same. So really sit with the word, and how you know is that it's true for all parts of your life. It's not just because we don't have one value system at work and one value system at home. Now, we may be more tolerant at work because we want the paycheck. But what I will say is be careful of how much you're compromising your values for the sake of a relationship with a person, with an organization, with your stylist, with, right? All the people. So what happens is, the last thing is, after we have the experience, what then do we label the person in these pet peeves? If someone lies to you, what do you call them? If somebody stole something from you, you call them. If somebody doesn't finish their work every day and they come in late, what do you call them? Lazy, right? So we have these emotional reactions, and then we label the whole person. And that's how visceral it is, though, right? But then the question becomes, how many people have a value they think, a value confrontation of lying? Anybody in the room? They just can't. When people lie, that's one of the things that takes them over the top. Anybody in here? Okay. So then the question becomes, how many lies does it take? How many lies do you have to tell to be a liar? 1? How many people in this room have at least told one lie? Okay. So then you consider yourself a liar. Oh, wait, what happened? Huh? Or somebody else. That's right. Yes, of course. Right? You see the issue we're running into? We have these experiences of people, and then we label them based upon the experience. And what happens when we label people is, once I think you're a liar, I know what that is, right? So I don't have any more questions, because I know what liars do. They lie. When we label people, we stop being curious. Labels prevent us from seeing the entirety of a person or a situation. Hence, oh, it's so awful that I missed my flight. Is it? It could also be amazing that I missed my flight. Let's get curious about it. What else could this be? Why might this person be telling me lies? Because if a person is a liar, that means they lie all the time, yes? How many people have ever called someone smart? What did you mean by it?
They were intelligent in their expression.
In their expression of ideas?
Exactly.
Okay, what else? Yes. They do things well. What else? Get good grades. What else? Comprehend things very well. They speak intelligently. Knowledgeable about what kinds of things? Okay, so a specific area, right? So do you know anybody who's smart in all things? No, right? Now, the thing is, so if this person can do quantum physics and they can do people analysis, probably not, right? The thing, again, with landing on a label, one is when I label somebody smart, you're putting it now through your filter, yes? Do I know what your filter is? Okay. So what I offer is that instead of labeling people, let's stick to the facts. She comes in early every day. She gets her work done before I've asked her to get. Those are facts. And then you can now make a decision, a well-informed decision about how you're thinking about things. But saying, oh, she's amazing, I don't know what that means. You know, when I first started traveling after I left corporate America, and I would tell people, what do you do? I'm an entrepreneur. They're like, oh. You don't know if I'm bankrupt, if I'm broke, if I'm barely making it. And so what about that just sent you to this mental chatter of amazing? You stop. They weren't curious anymore because in their minds, they know what it means to be an entrepreneur. Sleepless nights, night sweats, eating what you killed, right? Some good years, some terrible years, but that's somewhere, I don't know their definition. So when people say, oh, your talk was amazing, cool, tell me more about that. What did you get out of it? Amazing doesn't cut it. That's very nice, but I don't know what you mean, right? And in this world where we're constantly cutting down we used to write in paragraphs and now it's acronyms, right? IJS. So we're saying less and less and less to try to express concepts and ideas, and we're doing this. So liberate your life from labels, I would offer you. One of the things that core values does, I remember when I started aerobics back in the day, and everybody would talk about, and still trainers will talk about your core. You have to strengthen your core, strengthen your core. And the reason why they say that is so that you're sturdy, right? It's for balance, it's for steadiness, it's for strength, you're immovable. Well, core values strengthen you mentally that way. So you don't go too far to the right and you don't go too far to the left. You can sit here in yourself and understand the situation. You will walk differently, I promise you, if you identify your core values, because then that's where we want to start to build the brand. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Can somebody please tell me when we have, do I have till noon?
We'd like to kind of finish like a couple minutes before.
Okay, can someone tell me when it's 11:47? 45, thank you. Okay. All right, so here are the 3 elements of your personal brand. And I look at these as like an onion, right? With your appearance being your first line of defense, right? That's the first thing people see. And in that is also includes your aura, right? That's the thing that is emanating off of you. And this is why mental chatter is critical. Because if your mental chatter, you were late for work, you couldn't find your keys, somebody cut you off in traffic, and you're not processing this, by the time you get where you're going, your mojo is off, your aura is off, even if your appearance is right? That what you're giving off may not be what you want it to be. So one of the things that people look for in appearance, is it appropriate, is it aligned, and is it authentic? Now, you can't know all that initially, but that's the thing that either draws someone to you or repels, right? You walk into a room, you see someone, it could be their posture, it could be the way they're smiling, but it's different for all of us in terms of what that thing would be. How long do you think it takes the average American to form a first impression? 5 seconds, I heard 7. Somebody said just seconds, right? Yes. 5 to 7 seconds to form a first impression. Guess how many times you have to interact with the person or the brand in order to change that first impression? 5, 10, 7, 56. 56 times. Think about it. Think about somebody you had a bad run-in with, or a really terrible first impression, or even a restaurant that you went and visited because somebody said it was delicious and the service was terrible, the food was terrible. That restaurant might not be there, but if you're driving by, you're gonna be like, there used to be this restaurant over there. And I remember I went in there, because if they don't have the opportunity to change your mind, you will stay with the story. Even if the story gets fake, when you run into that person, I remember when we met, I've said that about people. When we first met, blah, 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 blah. If you don't give people the time to change, then that first impression will remain, which is why I'm going back to mental chatter, because it establishes your aura. And then when you're thinking about your appearance, yes, you want to be authentic, but also appropriate, right? I wouldn't wear this to a pool party. Or if someone says, I'm having a denim and bling party, and I decide I'm going to wear a formal gown because I want to be different. I'm going to stand out, but in what way? Okay. The next is communication. Authentic, intentional, and clear. Now, you run into some people and they love to use big, giant words and, to express their opinions, but people really like to consume information on a third grade level. Make it plain. Tell me what it is that you mean. Use words that I can understand. All right, so when we're talking about face-to-face communication, what do you think these percentages look like?
Body language, 70%.
Okay.
25%. Tone, remaining 5%.
Okay, that's a good guess. I won't make y'all keep doing math for now, I'll just tell you.
Let's see how it goes. Boom. That's pretty good.
Yeah. So our body language tells people everything they need to know, which goes back to what? Mental chatter and aura. How is it that you're thinking will determine how you're showing up? I was really excited to come here. Do you feel that off of me? Does it feel like I want to be here? I meant it, right? I couldn't wait to talk about one of my favorite subjects. So this is, of course, in face-to-face communication, but it's like you ask someone a question, it's like, are you having a good time? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's cool. I like being here. It's good. Do you believe me? Why not? Right? It's saying absolutely not. Are you having a good time? Absolutely. I'm having a great time. This is amazing. This is great. Now, the thing about tone, and this gets tricky more with women than with men, statistically, because if we're having an emotional reaction, it shows up in our tone. So you can say words like, I just thought you were going to be on time, right? That's benign. Or I could say, I just thought you were going to be on time. Those are two different messages, yes? Same words, right? There's a gentleman who does an example in this microaggression course, and he says, I didn't say she stole the book, right? Benign. Then he'll change the inflection. I didn't say she stole the book. Who stole the book? What is he saying, rather? Somebody stole the book. I didn't say she stole the book. What am I saying? Somebody else stole the book. I didn't say she stole the book. What am I saying, though? She stole something, right? It's very clear. It is very clear what we mean in our tone. And so that's the check on the mental chatter, is what is it that I'm thinking? Because please trust and believe it's coming out. And how am I thinking? And how can I get more curious in the things that I'm thinking, particularly if you're landing on a negative space about a person or a situation? What other questions do I have? Could I have? Why might this person have done that? Do they do this everywhere they go? Did I do something that makes this person feel like they want to behave this way? In the curiosity, we're leaving the door open. So in communication, And this is all stuff I would encourage you to get personal feedback on. Because one of the things is, similar to the way I asked earlier, if you considered yourself liars, even though you told one or more of the lies you said the liars told, we believe we're nuanced. But when someone else does it, we think we have them pegged. And we have to leave that same space of nuance for others. Because in the same way that we know that, we took the long road and then we went through a path, and that's the same thing. Other people are going through those things as well. So your character is where the rubber meets the road. And this is where your core values really show up. So that again, when your name comes up, are the descriptions of the things you've done, not the labels. But when they talk about who you are, when they talk about the things that you do, is that right? Right? If you entered into the conversation or you were a fly on the wall, what does that sound like to you? And is it the same in all rooms? The character, again, not the presentation. It's okay to change the packaging to be appropriate for the environment that you're in, but the contents of the package, that is your brand. And that's the level of consistency. And for the people who value thoughtfulness, kindness, altruism, there's a bunch of values, and those are my hardest clients because they're the labels on the table, people pleasers. And they I'm a people pleaser. And so they're exhausted because they are running from scenario to scenario trying to get this label. One of my favorite questions to ask at the top of a keynote is, if you never got the outcomes you were seeking, would you still be happy with the journey? The outcomes are never guaranteed. And so if we're having regret about some way we compromised ourselves and a way we didn't live for the hope of something that never happened, that has to come back to us, that thoughtfulness. If you change yourself to work for a certain company or to be in a relationship with a person or an organization, it is not their fault that you compromised, right? So make it worth it. Say, I'm willing to do this. I suggest you don't, but if you do, just know that you may or may not get the outcomes that you're seeking, and then don't have regret. That's when you say, I tried it. So our character, the mental and moral, a person's standards of behaviors of belief, or the moral mental qualities distinctive to an individual. So it's the behavior. It's where you can see who a person is. Yes, I engaged because of the way you look, not in a superficial way, right? I liked what you had to say, and now I want to get to know you. And as I'm getting to know you, I'm finding out things, and this is why there's a lot of relationships that start based on an experience. You have a shared experience. You both, some people call them trauma bonds, and sometimes it could be trauma, or it could be a fun thing that you're bonding on. And then over time, what happens is their values start to rise to the top. Because when the honeymoon phase is over, you're like, yes, we connected on this, great. But, I'm exhausted when I leave this person's presence. Or I feel irritated when I'm around this person. Those are core value confrontations showing up. Pay attention to those. When I figured this out, there's some relationships that went from 8 to 2 or 10 to 0, because I realized that the reason why that person and I couldn't walk together was because we did not share similar or aligned values. You don't have to have the same values. But like thoughtfulness and kindness work well together. Thoughtful kindness, consideration work well together, right? Tradition, stability, options, and variety, that's tricky. That's tricky. Again, you may choose to compromise, just know why it is that you're doing it. So finally, remember that the three things people do expect from your brand, even in your authenticity in your brand, is that it is authentic, it is real, that it is congruent, the same everywhere, and that it is consistent. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
In regards to the issue about body language.
Yes.
And in this almost total virtual environment in the workplace,
Yes.
And you have some younger people who just don't communicate authentically.
Sure.
And you're not reading their body language. You're just taking, the words you hear, but then they're not even turning their cameras on when you're having a meeting.
Yes.
How do you overcome that, or how can you work through kind of breaking that down to find out exactly what they're doing?
Ask clarifying questions. So however you're understanding it, throw it back out there. This is how I'm hearing what you're saying. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Or do I understand correctly that X, Y, and Z? So what you're saying is, right? And now here's the thing to be careful of is, well, one, remembering your aura, right? And any emotional reactions you might be having to being irritated that they're off camera, all the things. But remember, they don't owe us this. And if it's required, then they should be on camera because now that's a performance development. But if you're just irritated and they don't owe you that, let it go. Because when you ask these questions, you want to ask in earnest so that they answer you that way, because that tone could shut them down, right? And if you're really after a common goal, we got to let our ego go. I saw another hand here. Yes. Yes.
Oh, could you please repeat your quote again?
If you never got the outcomes you were seeking. To repeat the quote. If you never got the outcomes you were seeking, would you still be happy with the journey? Yes.
Question, go back to Tony. So my problem, not well, opportunity. I work around all men, and I'm from the city, so it's more of my sister calls it aggressive speech.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to be aggressive.
Sure.
But in certain situations, you sound like a black man who grew up in Philly and who grew up around all men.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's authentically who you actually are.
Yes.
You don't mean to be loud, you don't mean it's just what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is situations where people feel uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
and they just
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
But not that I care about that, but what do you suggest, or how should I come in, or have to be more successful? What do you suggest?
So that is, I'm going to answer, and it's tricky because in my dream world, what I'm talking about gets taught in the 2nd and 3rd grade. Because what I know, because my kids are my guinea pigs, they've been doing this work since they were 6 and 8, and they are the label police. They have it. So kids can understand it. And the reason why is because I would love if the person who finds you aggressive gets curious. The second they say, "Ooh, he's just so aggressive," well, how might I be viewing this wrong? And what is it about what he's saying that's making me sense that? And what questions might I be able to ask to dismantle some of what I'm thinking? Right? So that's on the person who's receiving. Because if you say something and I'm offended, that's not yours, that's mine. Because I have to take a look to see what offended me. First of all, whether you meant it or not. If I pick up what you're putting down, obviously I think the mail was for me. Otherwise, it's returned to sender, yes? Somebody said people who wear colorful suits to do professional engagements are unprofessional. I would have questions. I'm not offended at all. Where'd you learn that? Tell me more about that. Not even because I'm thinking I want to change, but because I like the knowledge of understanding that that's a thing. And so if you're ever comfortable in moments where you feel like a person is sensing that you're aggressive, call it out. Feels like something changed just now, or it feels like I may have said something. You can say, I may have said something that made you uncomfortable. Talk to me about that. It disarms them. The fact that you even care enough to call out the moment. If you say it again with aggression, tell me, did I do something wrong? But then that's different. But in the moment, if you say, now I would hope if I felt that you were being aggressive, I'm touchy-feely, and this might not be appropriate, especially for men to do, but I will say, okay, that's loud. But in a nice way, and again, it disarms. So you have to be, but that's authentic to me. Some people wouldn't be comfortable doing that, but if I felt somebody getting aggressive and it felt like real aggression and not just a person being loud, I would say, I would like to table this conversation. until we can talk about it differently. But if it's just somebody, I mean, I live in Boston. I'm from here, but I live in Boston, and you talk about aggressive. Yes, but just, I mean, I've stopped labeling. So now I'm curious all the time. There's just I exist differently because I'm not landing so much, if that makes sense. Yes.
I want to do a reverse of what he just said.
Yes.
And I'm going to say, as a black female, in a department of perhaps 300 white men, black female, myself. And in his situation, I think you talk about being aggressive, but you also realize I had to be young and assertive. Because otherwise, in that environment, they would make me, and I'm in the technical world, they would make me Miss Clerical. I wouldn't get the real, they would make me, you know, the clerical person is the secretary. I want the secretary. Again, environment, all white men, only black female. So you develop that assertiveness, but when you come in the other world, because I have been trained to question the void, it becomes somewhat a negative response. But it's part of questioning the void. You've trained that for years. And so when you come out of that environment, how do you, switch over because somebody's taking you to be something you're really not, only because you've been trained.
Absolutely.
It's about survival.
I hear you. Yes. So this is where, this is where appropriateness for the environment, right? This is where we stay curious. So when I walk in here, my mode is very different than when I'm talking to middle schoolers, right? But it's my tone is different. I don't take this professional, I don't take this tone to middle schoolers because they would fall asleep, heads on desks. So, but that's a training of your mind to say, that presentation isn't who you are. It's what you've practiced being, and you've not yet introduced yourself to new environments differently. Well, what is this? What's your name?
Chris.
Well, what presentation of Chris does this call for? You know what I mean? Not which Chris content is in the room, but which presentation of Chris is in the room. Does that make sense? Okay, I think we have time for one more, and then we got to go. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right, I'm around. I'll be at lunch. Feel free to come up, ask questions. Thank you so much for your time. I enjoyed this.